Welcome back to this week's live recap. My name is Michael, and I want to talk about patience and how it may be influencing your trading strategy. Let's jump right into our first trade, which is a double bottom and a higher low, right on support near the lows of the day. So this is a great entry for us. One thing I want to highlight is the timing of this trade. Right now, it is 7:10 a.m. Pacific time, which means that it's been 40 minutes since the market has opened. Now, hopefully that's not a surprise to anyone, but day trading really isn't this rapid fire second by second action sequence. You'll notice it's been 40 minutes and I haven't taken my first trade. And that's okay. Day trading is really much more relaxing and a lot more slower pace than it's made to be. Now, why is that? Well, we have to look back at our job as a trader. As a trader, we're here to develop a plan and then bring that plan to the market and wait for the market to show us those patterns so that we can execute them. And if the market decides not to show us anything, or it wants to be stubborn and do nothing, well then as traders ourselves, we have to simply accept that, okay, we have to do nothing too. We cannot impose our will onto the market and force our trades because that will simply lead us to disaster. So if we look at this current market open, what happened? Well, yesterday it closed here, and then when it opened, there was basically no action. It means that the overnight movement was meaningless. No gap up or no gap down. So when I see this at the session open, there's really nothing to get excited about. Then, how did that follow up? Well, the market went up, and then it immediately sold it all off. So all of the momentum it tried to build, it immediately took it back and said, I just don't want to do anything today. Then it continued to fluctuate back and forth over the EMA, which is a huge sign of indecision. And to me, that's just something that is untradeable. And what it tells me is that, there's probably not going to be a good setup. So there's no point in analyzing the market, and there's no point in focusing my energy when I doubt that a setup will show up. Now, as this pattern plays out, it starts to become more clear that, hey, we're starting to go into a trading range. You'll notice that we are respecting the highs here. There's this double top here that's forming some great resistance. And then at the bottom, we are forming support. So at the beginning, I have no idea what the market wants to do. No gap up. It really is telling me, hey, I just want to sit at the EMA and do nothing. But then as we start to form this clear pattern, it makes me want to lean in because I notice, hey, we're in this trading range and there is probably going to be a good setup near the lows. And that is exactly what happened here. We came back to the lows. You'll notice that tons of sellers came in and they flushed down. So remember, when you have big sellers coming in, that's usually a sign of FOMO sellers being active. And then as we get to the lows here, you'll notice that they rejected multiple times. They failed once, they failed twice, and then they failed a third time on this higher low. And so that's my signal to come in and buy and hopefully trap a lot of those sellers with a profit target of at least going back into the middle of the range. And then with the best hope is to crack somewhere near the highs of the day, because that's where the major resistance is going to come in. And we really don't want to battle that major resistance if we're going for a high probability setup. Okay, before we move on, I want to quickly go into our review mode here so I can go over the nitty-gritty details of what happened in that trade. So we went in long here. This is where we bought, and let's quickly draw out that trading range so we can visualize what that resistance at the top looks like. This was more focused on the double top, and then at the bottom here, we had all of this support. And then when we had the big selling that flushed down here, we had the triple failure, whatever you want to call it, resistance, support. We bounced off of it, and that's what I wanted to buy. And I was hoping for at least a move back into the trading range. And then as a final target, we want to be looking to take profits before the top of the range. And what we have here is a pretty simple trading range pattern. You know that it wants to fluctuate. It wants to make lows, highs, and lows. It's going to keep bouncing back and forth like this. So when we get to the bottom here, my inclination is that it's going to bounce off, especially with all of the trap traders. You know they're going to be freaking out. They're going to get flushed out, and that's what helps us push prices higher and helps our buy signal. Now, one interesting thing is that this pattern actually set up the exact same way on the short side. If you scroll over here a bit, we will see that we had that exact double top pattern. There was a double top here, and then it followed up into this lower high, which flushed back into the middle of the trading range. So I actually didn't take this trade live. I don't remember why I missed it. I will say that it was probably due to the context switching. What do I mean by context switching? Well, when you're in a buy and then you take profits, I will say that it is really hard to switch your mind into that sell mode right after you have previously had a bullish signal. I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do in trading, is to go from a buy immediately into a sell, or the opposite, like you're selling and then immediately reverse into a buy. I think usually if we're in a buy mode, your mind is kind of biased towards that direction. So you often don't see the sell signals. And if we look at it here, that's probably what happened to me. I was in the trade, I was in the buy. We took our profits, and then I really wasn't thinking about a sell. I was kind of trying to mentally clear my mind. But at the same time, this trade happened. I did miss it, and that's okay. Remember, we're going to miss trades all the time. All that matters is that the trades that we do act on are executed properly. And moving on to our last trade here in the recap, we are in a sell. The market is furiously selling off. And again, it's been about 2.5 hours since our last trade. So you don't have to be going crazy when you're day trading. It doesn't have to be a bang, bang, bang. There doesn't have to be trades going left and right. You can take the process slowly. The market will allow it. And you also don't have to be taking 1 million trades a day. In this example, I'm only taking 3 trades, including this one. Before this, there was a loss. I'll quickly talk about that. I saw this massive sell-off. Where is my mouse? Here we go. So we had this massive sell-off. I thought that this was a pretty good area to buy. There was a double top here near the bottom. And so I was hoping we could buy it and maybe return to the EMA, where this bounce actually happened. We actually got stopped out by a few ticks, which is a little unfortunate. It happens in trading. Whatever, you move on to the next trade. Don't let it affect you. So that loss happened. Unfortunate. We were very close to seeing a pretty big swing trade up. But we are moving on to this next trade, which is a nice sell here. So what is going on with this setup? First of all, if we zoom out one more time, you'll notice that we are in a bear trend. There was a trading range in the morning, but then that selling really started to pick up and we started to sell, sell, sell. There is some pretty heavy bearish action going on. And again, that is something we do not want to ignore. Just because you think that the market will go up, it doesn't matter. The market is telling you that we are in bearish mode right now. So what does that do to traders? Well, one thing I kind of notice is that it really tricks people into thinking that the market is going to reverse. And what might be tricking you? Well, there is this trend line. You'll notice that the market is slowly making higher lows and higher highs, which in your mind, you might think, hey, well, this is a bullish market. Well, no, you need to zoom out and realize, no, we were selling off for the past 2 hours. We're probably not just going to reverse here. So when I see that trend line, the first thing that comes to my mind is trapped traders or naive traders. These buyers who are going to think, okay, this might be the reversal. But we have to take into account what's going on the chart. And if we start drawing more lines, we can see that there was actually a failed breakout here. The market failed 2 times to break out of the market, and it quickly rejected back down. So when we come back to retest this area, you'll notice the trade where I sold was down here in this zone. So when we come back to test it a second time and we start forming these big bearish bars, that's going to clue me in and tell me, hey, this is probably an area where there's a lot of buyers, or a lot of like naive buyers who think that this might be a reversal. They're probably buying off of this trend line here and they're looking for the market to go up. But there was this pretty crazy failed breakout. It's gonna leave some permanent damage on the market. And so when we come back and test it for a second time, I want to sell, I want to participate and hopefully flush these traders out. So if we move the chart over a bit, you'll notice, yep, they did get flushed out. If you think of a buyer, where is the buyer going to put their stop loss? The buyer is probably going to put their stop loss on this swing low here, which is where it bounced off of the trend line. So when I come in and sell, I'm going to want to target that swing low. That's probably the easiest place where we can take profits. We want to flush them out. And then after we hit those targets, we can move on to the next trade. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you for the support, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a thing or two out of this. Make sure to be patient. That's going to be your key in winning in the markets. Good luck out there. Happy trading.